Hello everyone, this is Nick, otherwise known as Crazy Cookie on the PokerVIP forums. And today I'm going to be doing episode 5 of my Learn to Crush 15 minutes at a time series. And we're going to be following on from the last episode and looking at a few more board textures and which ranges they suit best, PFR or the pre-flop caller. Or actually in today's episodes, the free better and the pre-flop raiser who then called. So slightly different dynamic to last episodes. If you haven't seen the first episode of this kind of little section of this series, I'd definitely advise you to look at it. I would also advise you to look back over the first episode, which was maximizing your 15-minute CV. I know I've said this in every single episode so far, but it's really, really important that you watch this. You get an idea of how to best use your 15 minutes, track your progress, track your goals. Everything is really valuable. Definitely something you need to learn and use to progress through this series. Today, as I said, we're going to be looking at some board textures. I also mentioned last week that we may well be having a part 3 of this PFR/PA pre-flop caller. And that's simply because we have 12 board textures, and as we found out last time, I could only do 4 in 15 minutes, which is still an achievement, but 12 divided by 2 is not 4. So there may well be a part 3 to this, and we'll probably come up with a slightly different scenario again. So we have 3 individual scenarios for 4 different board textures. And after this board texture sort of segment of this series, we're going to take a break from using Combinator exclusively, or as the main focus rather, and we're going to move on to using Poker Snowy and then Hold'em Manager, and really getting into more of the playing situations, which is a little bit more fun. As I mentioned, today we are going to be using Combinator again, and I really value Combinator. I've used it in all my episodes so far. I use it as pretty much my main training software at the moment. It's a fantastic piece of kit. If you want some more information on that, check back in some of the other videos. I've mentioned where you can get it, costings, etc. Same with PokerStove. I'm also going to flash up Flopzilla at one point today, but that's only going to be to show you a range which is saved in there rather than anywhere else. So it's not really necessary, and to be honest, I don't have to include it here, and you certainly don't have to include it in your software armory. So here are the 12 board textures that we're going to be studying. We looked at the first 4 in the last episode in a pre-flop open facing a call and whether the PFR should then c-bet or not. And today we're going to be looking at the next 4 board textures. We're going to be taking a slightly different scenario where the cutoff opens, the big blind free bets, and the cutoff defends. And we're then going to see if the board texture favors the big blind as the free better or the cutoff as the pre-flop caller against the free bet. We're going to look at the sort of like the equity share or the equity advantage, probably a better way of saying that. And then getting an idea of which hands we should be c-betting on each board. We've also got a really nice mixture of boards here. We've got a ace high, slightly dynamic boards, a low paired boards, a dry mid board, and then a very dynamic board. So we should get a good idea of 4 different situations how these 2 ranges weigh up against each other. We will be using the iconic 15-minute countdown. I know that a lot of people like that, and I think it's really good to visualize how much you can do in 15 minutes. I will go through these quite quickly, so if you have to rewatch it a couple of times or skip back to see what I'm doing, I'm sorry for that. This is really just an example of what you can do in 15 minutes. I'm trying to really exploit that. I would probably say you might want to spend a little bit more time on each one of these than I am. But episodes 2 and 3 actually went through very similar to this, but in a lot more detail. This is more useful, I suppose, for your warm-up, where you can say, I'm going to put 15 minutes in. I'm going to look at 2, 3, 4 board textures, and I'm going to see which range, which positions do best on them. So yeah, like I said, this is the situation. Villain in the cutoff opens. Here in the big blind free bets, and the villain calls. So a couple of ranges to look at. I've got, this is the cutoff open and then call a free bet range. The hands in green are just used for imposition. So today that's all of them. And on here we have an example big blind free bet range. I've used this just because this is a range that I have and I will use in scenarios. But this could be changed to King, Queen, and Ace, Jack, and you take out a few of these, or you could take out Ace, Queen, put in a few more suited combos. Doesn't really matter. Put in your own ranges or what you think your opponents are going to be doing. It's way more valuable than just copying this range I've put in here. And play around with it, because you may find that a slightly different range actually benefits you more on more boards. So it's another avenue you can explore and go down. For today, we are going to look at player 1, who is the pre-flop opener and then calls a free bet. This is his range. Go to post-flop modes, and we will begin. Let's see how we go. I've also got, before I start, I've also got PokerStove set up with, this is Hero's free bet range. And this is the cutoff's calling range. So what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to put the board texture in and straight away get an idea of our equity. So we'll do that in a little bit. But first, let's start the countdown. Boom. So let's take this board texture first of all. Ace-8 to two-tone. And what I like to do here is I like to put in Villain's nutted combos that he's never folding. So sets are obviously never going to be a fold. And then in group 2, I'm going to put his top pair combos. Group 3, I'm going to put as other pairs because they're not going to fold the flop. Group 4, I think it's quite easy here just to put in all of his flush draws. Group 5, I'm going to put in his backdoor flush draws, which also do well and block against our better ace-x combos. So like King, Queen of diamonds, King, Jack of diamonds, Queen, Jack of diamonds, King 10, Queen 10 diamonds will put in as well. They block some of our better ace-x combos that we're going to free betting with. They also have backdoor equity, which is quite cool. So they can play those in any way they like to. They can raise or call. I would like both of them. Probably calling over raising because I think that Villain here has enough stronger hands to raise first. And then I'm also going to put in when he has a heart and a, am I right here? Heart and a diamond, which is here, and diamond and a heart of King, Queen. Because again, they have some backdoor equity and they block Ace, King, Ace, Queen. They also block Kings and Queens, but if facing a c-bet, it's not as, you know, we're not going to be c-betting Kings and Queens here all that often. I don't think we should be anyway. So we can see here straight away that Villain is actually folding quite a bit on this board texture, 44% nearly. So that makes a c-bet look fairly nice here. And this makes sense. It's an ace-high board, which probably suits us a little bit better. This can, of course, change if Villain has called more ace-x combos. If they call all of their ace, you know, ace-8, ace-7, ace-6 suited, which some people will from the cutoff, you will find this drops down, but probably not to below 33%. And a lot of people like to bet half pot in position and out position in a free bet pot, which is totally fine. And therefore, you can probably bet half pot with your entire range and be profitable here, it looks like. So straight away, it looks like the pre-flop opener who then called a free bet, this isn't a particularly good board for him, which makes sense. If we put in the board texture here, I'm putting it on in PokerStove just on my other screen, and we can see here that Hero actually has quite a significant equity advantage. This is what, like 15%? Nearly 16%, I think, 15-16% equity advantage here, which is huge. To have that kind of an equity advantage is significant, and it's therefore a board we should definitely be c-betting on quite a lot. So we know that this board texture now, or similar, so ace-9-2, ace-9-3, ace-8-3, is a good board for the free better to be c-betting quite a lot. It also means that it isn't a board that if you've opened and then called a free bet with this kind of range, it isn't actually a board you want to be raising on that much because your equity is in such bad shape. And to be honest, the free better has a lot of ace-x in their range anyway. So definitely a board texture for the free better and one that we can exploit doing that. Next scenario, wrapping through the first one, great. So eights 3-3 rainbow. And again, I'm expecting this to be more of the free betting range, but we'll see. Again, obviously, no pocket threes are not going to be folding, and neither are pocket eights. And then none of these overpairs are going to be folding. 9-8, 8-7, they're all going to be calling. And to be honest, I'm expecting Villain to be calling us here with an ace fairly regularly. I would also probably expect them to call whenever they've got a backdoor, and we can put this in, they may call all of these combos, but king high or queen high with a backdoor flush draw, I think is fine to call because there's going to be enough turns to begin doing stuff on. Jack 9, Jack 10, 10 9, they're quite close. They do have the extra backdoor straight draw, I suppose, so maybe you can include like 10 9 and leave it at that. And you can see here that Villain has got more hands in his calling range, but again, we're still above 33%. So again, it looks like a pretty nice board for us to just go ahead and c-bet on. Even if you include, even if we include half of the combos of king queen off, which may be a call, we're still above the required percentage to get a fold. So again, a half pot c-bet here is looking very favorable. If we put in the board into PokerStove, and I don't know why I'm actually typing out when I could just paste it, we can see that Hero's equity, or the free better's equity here, again, is a fair bit higher than the callers. We're looking at like a 7% equity advantage here, which again is actually fairly significant. It's not as big as the one before, but it's clear that we should be c-betting this fairly regularly as the free better. In practice, this may play differently. You may find that, again, Villain will have more ace-x. They'll call a little bit wider. But even if they do call, what I like to see now is, well, on the turn, they've only got about group 3. What is group 3? Group 3 is ace high. So they've only got 28% of their combo. Assuming that if the turn is a low card, you know, over 70% of the time they have ace high or worse, which is pretty cool for us. It's a good board for us to therefore double barrel on. If we're c-betting with big cards, which is what we should be free betting mostly anyway with, and we can go back and have a look actually at our range, and we can see that we have got a lot of these big cards in our range that, simply put, we can just c-bet with king queen, knowing that, well, if we hit a king or a queen, we're going to be good. We're going to get enough folds. It's just clearly plus EV. So again, this looks like a pretty good board to be c-betting on. It's probably a good board to double barrel on. In theory is one thing. In game, you may find that these board textures actually, your opponent does something does things different to this. We'll look at in future sessions how we can use Hold'em Manager filters to look at that, and how we can take a scenario similar to this and see, actually, are we getting raised a lot more than we should be, and therefore we can adjust. But I like here just saying we have an equity advantage. We're expecting our opponent to fold quite a lot of the time when they have, you know, these sort of like Jack 9, Jack 10, even like Queen X, and if they have any other suited connectors which miss this board, we're getting enough folds, and they're going to have to call with quite a weak range, which is helpful as well. Onto board number 3, and we have the driest of the 4 boards, and this one I'm definitely expecting to see a free bet on. Let's quickly get rid of all of this. Let's just do clear, might be easier. Same process, we'll put in when they have the nuts, so, or pretty much the nuts. Then over pairs, top pair. And we can see again that 76% of our opponent's range haven't got a pair on this kind of boards, he says before putting in that. 74% of hands here don't have a pair. Or if they do, I mean, you've got 7s and 6s and 5s, which they probably call. In fact, we give them all the pocket pairs, or maybe drop 3s. We're looking at, even still here, 63% of the time he doesn't even have a pair that he's going to continue with, which is quite nice. If we go for some of the ace highs, which he may or may not call, I don't think just snap calling ace 9 suited or ace 10 suited is amazing here. But we'll put them in just to get an idea. Even now, we're still looking at close to 40% folds. And if we said, okay, what if we just put in when they have diamonds, clubs, and spades, just those flush draws, and king high flush draws, we can see that we're now actually at exactly the right frequency to c-bet half pot with. So again, this kind of board texture is looking pretty good for us just to go ahead and c-bet any two cards that we free bet, especially as, and I go back to our free bet range here, or a suggested free bet range, which we can change. We can see again that we have a lot of these big ace-x combos, which against our opponent's range is kind of crushing these sort of like king-queen down to jack-9 here. If we see bet ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, we're crushing this portion of our opponent's range. So it's a very nice plus EV bet on a board that we're not expecting to get raised on. We may want to check call some of these combos. You know, that's down to you and how your games play. But it's just another example of our equity advantage, which I'm expecting to see. Let's see if we now actually have the equity advantage. So we have 8 of diamonds, 4 of clubs, 2 of spades. Not 9-8. And we can see we actually have a very similar equity advantage, or the free bet has a very similar equity advantage to the last hand, where we're looking at around the 7%, just under actually, I think this one, 6% equity advantage, which is still actually pretty nice to have. And again, we're expecting to get quite a few folds, and we probably have the advantage of having more big cards to improve on than our opponent. So definitely, again, a board texture which we want to be c-betting a lot as the free better. Not a board texture that the caller wants to be raising on or even calling on a huge amount here. Looking at the final board texture, we have the wet, dynamic, dangerous, scary boards, which we will look at now. Again, taking Villain's nutted range, and we can straight away see that he has way more combos of nutted hands here. We also have a lot more top pair combos, which probably call at least 2, if not 3 streets, if the board doesn't get any worse. We also have hands like Jack 10, King 10, Ace 10, Pocket Jacks, 10, 9. We've got a lot of combos here that have already got a hand, and we're already down to, already have 43% of our hands are pretty strong and won't be folding the flop and have equity to probably continue on a lot of turns anyway. If we now go for straight / flush draws, so Jack 9 and King Jack have draws, we can also put in, we'll put in the flush draws in with this as well. So King 9, Ace 9, Ace Jack, 9-8, all of them, my bad. We won't put in this 8-7, 7-6, and we can see here that if we now put in group 5, when we have a gut shot, we have all of our ace jack combos, all of the ace jack combos, king 9 combos. I'm being dumb now. Yep, king 9 combos, with a backdoor flush draw as well. We're getting down to not getting enough folds, and to be honest, we could see our opponent call or raise with a ton of other combos as well. If we have, you know, the 7s are going to call, we may even see 9s and 8s call once. So this is definitely not a board we want to be c-betting on just to get anything to fold. We probably can still c-bet our higher equity hands. And it's going to be interesting now to see what the equity advantage is. I wouldn't be surprised to see this pretty equal. And it's surprising that we actually have, again, still a lot of equity with our range. It's not actually that surprising considering we've got a lot of big cards which connect with this board, but it is a board where we have a big drop off in equity. Our better hands, so you know, queens, overpairs, ace queen, straight draws and flush draws, have a lot of equity against pretty much anything our opponent has. But the weaker hands in our range have very little equity against most of our opponent's range. So therefore, it's a sort of board texture where if we're the free better, we pretty much want to divide up our range. Let's visualize that. It'll be a little bit easier, I suppose. And we want to probably go, we've got enough time to run through this. Let's clear all of this though. We probably want to say here, well, okay, let's c-bet our nutted hands, which is going to be queens. We haven't got 10s in this example, you may do. Then kings and aces to then not fold to. We may also want to put in, when we have a pretty, like, let's go with ace jack suited, ace king of spades as well, nut flush draws, some of our weaker draws as well, something like this. We probably want to be c-betting these, but we want to be checking back some queen x. We may put in, you know, ace queen in our c-betting range. But we definitely want to be splitting our range and saying, you know, this quarter of our range which you're c-betting is because we have a strong hand. You then probably want to put in flush draws, maybe ace king in our bluffing range, so the rest of ace king. Then you're looking at about a 50. You might get that up a little bit in terms of c-betting, and that makes sense because hands like 7-4, 7-5, 8-5 without a flush draw are pretty weak against a lot of our opponent's hands. We will of course be check calling some of our queen x. We can also c-bet them, check call jacks, check call a hand like 10-7. But it's not a board texture where we can just go, great, we're going to c-bet everything. Instead, we should be splitting our range and saying when we have good equity or a good hand, we can c-bet. And when we have absolute trash, because, you know, if we go back to the caller's range, because we're not getting enough folds really, that's annoying, but oh well. We saw here it was about 30% folds. Because of that, we can't just c-bet any two cards, and we should be c-betting when we have equity or a good hand. And that is perfect. Yeah, thank you. That's annoying. Cool. So yeah, that was 15 minutes. I think that was really good. We went through 4 board textures. A few of them were quite dry and quite easy. And we did have an equity advantage on all 4 of the boards, so that made the bet more profitable. Apologies for my guinea pig making annoying noises, although must thank her for not doing that throughout. The next episode, I think I will go through these final 4 board textures. So we've now done these. Let's do this. We've now done these 4. So we will probably do in the final of this well, it's not the series obviously, but the final part of this 12 board textures, I'll probably look again at a completely different situation. I'll think up one rather, maybe 4 bet pots, although I think that's going to be maybe a little bit too narrow ranges to really look at. I'll figure something out. We can look at those final 4 board textures, and then after that we can get into some Poker Snowy and some Hold'em Manager stuff, which will be fun. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. Feel free to comment any questions you have for me, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. Keep studying, keep working hard in your game, keep enjoying poker. It's really important. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.